I take this honor to invite the ED of Uganda Communications Commission to address us as we build for the future. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Arina Itwe. I understand the Minister is on his way. Representative of the Vice Chancellor, industry players, academicians, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's my honor and a privilege to welcome you to the 5th National Conference on Communication, popularly known as NCC. The idea behind this initiative is to strengthen communication research and inspire innovations that leverage emerging technologies to solve our contemporary problems. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to thank Makerere University and the College of Engineering and Design Art and Technology, SEDET, in particular, for accepting to host this year's event. It is the third time the NCC is being co-hosted with SEDET, which demonstrates a mutual acknowledgement of the worthiness of this cause. In supporting the National Conference on Communications, UCC has 3 broad objectives: to provide national forum for the presentation of outputs of peer-reviewed research into solutions for Uganda's local challenges and proposals to improve ICTs in Uganda; to provide a platform for discussion of local challenges and industry trends by stakeholders, that's industry, government, and academia; and to facilitate the networking of young professionals like you with senior practitioners and accredited training institutions. As we've already heard, the theme of this conference is harnessing opportunities in emerging fourth industrial revolution technologies. And this speaks to our national, political, and as well as socio-economic aspiration of using technology to leapfrog in development. Through this conference, UCC hopes to stimulate research and debate around the case of these emerging technologies, as have been mentioned: artificial intelligence, robots, Internet of Things, 3D, blockchain applications, etc., to provide locally relevant solutions and products. To successfully harness the opportunities presented by fourth industrial revolution technologies, we need to steer our education system to be responsive to today's needs and challenges. Public and private universities and tertiary institutions are churning out tens of thousands of graduates every year. How do we ensure that our citizens are not only being employed, but to acquire the skills to match the jobs of the future, which will have man doing the strategic thinking and technology addressing the routine tasks? Let me share some interesting facts, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I pause it because the Honorable Minister is here, who is the guest of honor. So, I was saying, I want to share some interesting facts here. It is said that the world was created by design, the universe evolved by chance, and human transformation is by choice. And what does this mean? The world is experiencing tremendous change driven by technology, and the prediction is that life cannot remain in the current form as we know it. Human intelligence is, however, providing the means for the next stage of evolution. It is important to note that every element on Earth is made up of information, including between me and you. You and me and the stone and whatever, we are a product of information. That's the basic element. If you want, you can call it an atom, but that atom is an information. You know, when you go to the sun, you've been to the sun in Switzerland, when you get into those details, it's a product of information. So you and me, a product of information. And for you to know these things, where we are going, we must establish this fact. It is therefore not surprising that the extension of evolution is being determined by information technology. There's no There's no any other evolution or revolution that will be more important than this one we are going through. Our universities use the same fundamental principles. Just like the top universities in the Western world, the textbooks used here are the textbooks that they use at Oxford, Cambridge, and all other universities. I'm sure you are aware of that. But the question is, why is transformation seem to be slower on our continent especially? Why? And there must be an answer. We must establish why transformation has been so gradual on the African continent. I look at this as a scientific question that demands a scientific answer. The world started with the laws of physics. That's how the world started. I'm talking about 15.5 billion years ago. To chemistry, and then to biology, which we, the human race, is a product. Ladies and gentlemen, it's true, it's a fact, that at the Big Bang, popularly known as the Big Bang, that was physics and chemistry. After the Big Bang physics, the chemistry came in. You remember the chemical reaction that formed some of the elements that created human life. And then biology and the DNA. And then DNA developed the brain. And then the brain developed technology. And then now we are moving into human technology with human intelligence. That's what we are doing here. And then the last technology that we're going to go through is the universe waking up. The universe will wake up. That's a fact. The universe will wake up. By the way, Honorable Minister and ladies and gentlemen, all these things were revealed long ago. The only problem, of course, the Almighty God revealed these things to non-scientists. If this information had been revealed to Alina Itwe and the rest, maybe we would have advanced faster. But unfortunately, reverend, bishops, and whatever. So, you know, in my life, I've never doubted the existence of God. But once in a while, I'll doubt his wisdom. If he had given to us, we would be far. But that's his business. We must establish why transformation has been so gradual on the African continent. Again, of course, I've said, okay, we have done this. Now, the algorithm, a DNA, is an algorithm. You know that? Not so? It's an algorithm written by nature. You know, most people refer nature as God, the universe. You know, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. The universe is the same thing as God, okay? Because it's the one who created this universe. So the algorithm written by nature to put in place the human race through DNA took billions of years to develop. However, it also created one interesting element in our brain called the cortex. I don't know whether there are doctors here. Is there any doctor here? The construction of the cortex, when you look at the layers of construction, cross over to Makere, you ask them. It can only allow linear thinking, linear reasoning. That's why your parents will see you when you're young, my child, because you have done this and this, you end up being this and this. You've heard of that. Or in physics, we can say if you drive at 90 miles per hour, we can predict that turning this corner, you definitely overturn. So that's the linear thinking. Linear thinking. Me and you have got linear thinking. However intelligent you are, it's within the limits of linear thinking. Now, we are now soon to experience another evolution of convergence of man and technology, popularly known or referred to as technological singularity. Believe it or not, in 20 to 25 years from now, there will be convergence of man and technology, biology and technology. By the way, Honorable Minister, I think being the Minister of Information has seen it. Do you read newspapers? When you look through these journalists of ours, you wonder whether this thing hasn't started yet. At UCC, we call them androids, artificial human. Because the way they write, you can't even read the story. You can't know what they are trying to say. There's a complaint that came to UCC, sir, that even these newscasters on the TV, that the English they are using, we don't understand. So I think there's a transition from human to technology. In between, time is coming when we shall be one, a singularity. There's going to be a singularity where man and technology are one. That's a fact, and we shall see, as we shall see later in this story. Now, this singularity is supposed to appear in a few years' time. And in actual fact, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in the theory of prediction, there's a theory which was discovered by a British clergyman called Thomas Bayes. He was a simple reverend. He used to dream of formulas, but he had the opportunity to go to University of Edinburgh 200 years ago. But now that formula has come back. It is being used to predict everything, simple, trivial, and big. When you use that formula, some people have predicted that human race is going to get extinct in 760 years. But depending on how you apply it, we could be facing extinction in the next 25 years. But that extinction they are talking about is actually this convergence of man and human and technology. So prepare for it. Some of you will go through it here. Now, the great diversity of our thinking is the result of ingenious mechanism of the architecture of our brain. In other words, this brain I'm referring to as linear brain, is the one that has called the alienators and whatever. We have stretched it. We can get PhDs in engineering, whatever, fly, but that is all we can do. So for us to go beyond the linear thinking of this neocortex is to ensure we apply information technology to go beyond. And this is what transformed all these countries in the world. No country has developed without applying technology. For the brain to have sufficient flexibility, it needs enhancement by technology, which causes it to think exponentially. So I'm saying that we must leave this linear thinking to exponential thinking for us to transform society. Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, that every revolution on earth has been driven by some form of technology to transform society. Remember the first industrial revolution, steam engine. The second was electricity and mass production, manufacturing. Third industrial revolution was computers and digitization. And now fourth industrial revolution is communication technology and connectivity and artificial intelligence. So the fourth industrial revolution will catapult society to another level. The basic principle, the basic purpose of these technologies, past and present and the future, is to transform man. You see, all you are doing now, you are looking for better life, transform life. Actually, to make it simple, every human being would like to live forever. Even the Bible talks about it, that God has created eternity in the heart of man, for those who read the Bible. Now, it's a wish of everybody to live longer. And it is coming. And I promise that you guys, some of you will live 200 years, others 400, others forever. You've heard of nanotechnology in biology, where they put nanobots in your bloodstream and they attack any deformation, DNA, to attack these diseases in your bloodstream, and you live forever. If you read the books written by futurists, the future is so exciting that even this body, which is a passport to living on this planet Earth, will be useless. We shall live without bodies. So all these things are coming, but it will require that we transform our thinking. We cannot afford, by the way, to live the way we are living. You know that. I started by talking about the slowness of our transformation. Why have we remained behind? Why haven't we developed? Now, it is therefore my considered view that our society, to increase the pace of transformation, we need to move away from the linear thinking and adopt the exponential time and thinking like the developed societies. I've brought an element of time here. As you know, time is very relative. You've studied physics. Believe it or not, time has been linear on our continent, when time in developed countries is being exponential. To a certain extent, that some of the time here, some of the people here live in static time. That's a fact. Those are scientific. For you to know and to move, we must pick all these things because we're part of the past. So, you remember, I've been giving an example, the evolution here in Africa. The Baganda had developed a good technology of fighting called the spear. And the one side is a blade, the other point is pointed. You've seen a spear, I'm sure. It did a very good job in defense, in conquering some neighboring areas, but also feeding the man because he used to hunt. But when we went to Vanuatu, that is in the Pacific, those people who left Africa long time ago on boats, not even during slave trade, they have got a spear which does not have the pointed bit. But remember, for any technology you come up with, there is data embedded in it. You know that. You make a spear, in it there is data that will make a better spear. But unfortunately, at that time when our spears were going through a revolution to make it better, that's when we got something we call slave trade. And therefore, it instilled terrible fear. And therefore, we tried to be safe so that we can prolong our lives. And of course, sayings like, I would rather live like a rat, live longer, than live like a lion and die. You've heard of those things. Or something like, the Lord will provide. You've heard of those things. Yes, that's the result of our DNA picking up that element of fear. And then we create our own time, a linear time, and we don't develop. But out there, the guy who took the slaves to America knew that the laws were coming, they were going to stop slave trade, I must move on. He must invent the tractor. He must move on, tools and whatever. So that's the difference. And it's not too late to move on because now we are free. The purpose of this technology, Fourth World Industrial Revolution, is really to bring this difference, to change society, change human beings. Now, therefore, Fourth Industrial Revolution technologies, Fourth Industrial technologies are a game changer. I seem to have lost my text. So, we must develop without fear and get involved in stretching our mind beyond the limitation of the cortex. And to do so, we must borrow technology. I've been told already experiments are in place that soon we shall be connecting to the cloud. All these things you are studying, your children and grandchildren will look back and read stories that our parents used to see it in a hall like this one and be taught. All these stories will come. Otherwise, we shall have, when we get to this convergence, technology and man, we shall be able to have exponential thinking that will take us beyond. Now, remember when you think linearly, 40 steps linearly is 40, but exponentially, it's 1 trillion. You're aware of that. Only last week, Time magazine published a story about a Ugandan man named Brian Gita, who invented a tool used to test for malaria parasites in the body. I'm sure that guy lives in exponential time. This time cannot be as linear as some of us. The 27-year-old, a product of this university, Makerere University, it must be said, was tired of that needle prick that many people, young and old, dread. He decided to do something about the problem, and the result is a groundbreaking invention that will transform the way malaria is managed in the world. His solution is simple, affordable, and quick method to test for malaria. No blood sample, no microscope, no lab technician required. Results are ready in 2 minutes. The proliferation of applications developed by creative Ugandan youth, such as Brian, gives us much pride and hope that Uganda can indeed reap the benefits of fourth industrial revolution. When you go to India, all the graduates, electrical engineering, for example, instead of going to look for a job, they go to the industrial area. They open up kiosks, garages, and they start making motors, small tools. Now, remember, this principle of exponential thinking, exponential prediction, is being used by so many people, including Indians. For example, when I was young, I'd see an Indian dressed in a certain, we used to call it terrorism. I don't know if you don't know that material. 20 years on, he was still wearing the same trouser. And when I asked his son, why does your dad, how does he keep this material for this long? He said, you know, when he started business, he was not starting for the current generation. He was looking into the future. He had prediction that the need of society will be changing in such and such mode. Now, for us, we plan for today. I remember I was reading a book that in 1880, America commissioned a study to know the population of New York City in 100 years' time. They were using linear thinking. And the report showed that, yes, the challenge we have after 100 years is a knee level manure, because they were using donkeys. They thought that the report they wrote was that the manure will be knee-high. You understand? That was at that point, the research they were doing. But they could not foresee that technology would have come, birth control would have taken place, and people would be moving on machines, no carts, no horses. And therefore, even in business, once you meet the needs of once you see people running, that there is a mobile money in Chikubu is making a lot of money, and you rush there without putting in the element of projection, right? That in 10 years' time, where shall we be as a society? Then you are finished. It will never work. So the Indians do it. They are good at predicting than us. For us, we are saying, let me have mine, and off disappear. Now, every problem we face in our day-to-day activities, as a professor, I need to have said, in agriculture, health, business, education, entertainment, is an opportunity to explore technologies to make life better. From farmers faced with fake drugs and disease to border raiders targeted by criminals to traffic jams in Kampala where problem exists, solution can and should be found. And I've been wondering that these guys, the young guys who are writing these apps, why don't you develop an app that will be given to borders so that they can be traced at every place they are. In fact, was it last week? I saw Facebook doing the same, I think. Facebook media had thought about it. Facebook was launching something similar. I'll read it again, but something similar. So that when I'm on a border, I just press that button, and all my friends, maybe may have 3 or 2, 4, they will know, they will track me. So, this is where we must go, where we must focus, that our inventions must look into the future. Therefore, back to our education system, it should be oriented towards problem solving rather than mere white-collar jobs. There are no more jobs. With time, degrees per se will cease to matter, replaced by benchmarks such as what skills or competencies do I possess? What do I have to offer? Can I add value to other people's lives? That's the most important thing. That's why Fourth Industrial Revolution is here, to add life to other people. On the other hand, can I extend life? For that matter, we want to live forever. The Fourth Industrial Revolution will be conquered by those who, in addition to their formal education, can accumulate relevant knowledge and can attain the right skills and have the right mindset or emotional intelligence. Society expects universities to take the lead in development by producing adequately educated and capable individuals that are well equipped with whatever is needed to succeed not in today's world but tomorrow as well. What they lack in land, capital, or experience, they can make up with their knowledge, skills, creativity, and imagination. Let us raise, as a government agency, academicians, researchers, students, and other stakeholders, work together to identify and harness the immense opportunities represented by Fourth Industrial Revolution and leapfrog the development. Thank you so much for listening to me.